first part of my investing career was like when I learned private lending, my whole portfolio became private lending. And so I'm learning how to recalibrate all of that. But it also causes you, if things don't work out the way you plan, to learn how to develop a capacity to disappointing others and yourself when it doesn't work the way you planned, you know, and not shutting down over it, you know, just really leaning into, sometimes you just have to have hard conversations and then figure out where all the parties are ready to go and pick up the pieces from here. Like what works for you, what works for me, what's going to make the whole, you know, transaction work best, highest and best use, you know, is the most important thing to evaluate every time.
Welcome to Burning the Ships podcast, and I'm your host, Jason Seward, and today I'm sitting down with Miss Leah Coleman. How you doing, Leah?
Hey, Jason. Great. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yep. Full disclosure, we tried this last week, but we had a little bit of technical difficulties, so we were able to get it back on the calendar, and I'm excited to get into the conversation we were trying to last week. But one thing about Leah, and I'll turn it over to Leah in a minute to get into her intro and stuff like that. But I met Leah probably in the environment that she succeeds at more than most people I talk to, and that is at a networking event. She is a powerful networker. I think when I first met you, Leah, it was at a Rise event, and after the event, I'd spoken on something, but you brought up two. I think they were in high school, but they were trying to get into real estate in some way, maybe wholesaling, but they didn't have any experience. And you brought them up and you introduced them, and as basically looking for a mentor for them. And I did keep in touch with one of them. You know, it kind of fizzled out, but my point of saying that is you took your time to kind of take these two individuals under your wing, try to help them find a mentor in a space that they're trying to learn about, and you had nothing to gain from that. They were trying to break into wholesaling. You as a realtor, that doesn't benefit you at all, right? They're wholesaling deals. You may not ever see any return on that investment of time into them. And I say all that to kind of set the table of who you are. You are very clearly, how can I help the next person out? That is where your focus is. And we're going to get into your story, which is going to illustrate that more and more. But I wanted to lead with that. And thank you for that, because you've connected me with some folks. And, you know, we have a mutual client of Lori Eubank. I know you'll talk about on here.
We were able to connect all together this year. And guess what? We're celebrating today. A closing.
Let's go.
With you.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Hampton. Yes. So excited.
Partner Bill Phillips handles all of that side of the business. So I'm a little bit of the loop there, but that is exciting.
Well, I'm loving the alignment that we got to re-record today, just because I just felt like that was the best news I got at my 9:00 call with her. And so she says hello, and she's like, I'm ready to send him another request, a new request for funding.
Yeah, we'll take it. I need to get her on here as well. I know her and I communicated a little bit about it, but we'll get that done. But before we get into everything else, I got to kick it off with turning it over to my buddy JJ for JJ's Joke of the Week. Take it away, JJ.
What's a teacher's favorite nation? Explanation.
All right. Thank you, bud. That was another good one. Leah, you've got a 10-year-old. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Boy or girl? Remind me.
She.
Okay.
Her name is Presley Joy. She is something else. This age is so fun to parent, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've got a girl and a boy. So my daughter is about to turn 14. And my son is 9. And just like I'm just fascinated about, they came from me and my wife, but they are completely different individuals, right? Just completely different. And it's just fun frustrating at times trying to raise them, but it is fun just watching them grow and develop. And I'm sure you feel the same way with your daughter. So.
Oh yeah. They're so special. It's awesome to include them in our work now too at this age, isn't it? I love that he is enjoying joke telling with you.
Oh,
among
he
other
loves
things.
it. But Leah, what I'm gonna do is I'll turn it over to you, and I'll let you take it wherever you want. But kind of introduce yourself so that the audience can know who you are, what your background is, kind of what your path in life, real estate, entrepreneurship, and all of those things. And then we'll take it from there.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason, again for the honor of being here with you today. And
Mhm.
I always consider every opportunity to share any part of my journey to um, kind of hone in on things that parts of it that might inspire somebody else. So, with that being said, I've recently began to be re-inspired by my own story because I don't know if you can relate to this, but going through different seasons of this type of career, and then going through the last foreclosure market, then a really steady uptick, and now we're in a very different market today. I just don't think I connected my dots a lot and didn't really talk about my story much. Honestly, hardly even re-referenced it in my own recollection to like give me the fuel that I would need today actually to carry me through a difficult market and my clients. And so I have been really re-inspired by my own story and empowered again. So in saying that, I ended up getting introduced to our career type in real estate investing when I was in my 20s. At the time, up until then, I had a small stint in banking background, worked for a bank at age 18, an eye doctor's office. I had also transitioned into a credit union. And then when I moved away and went to college and had a different life at one point in Utah, worked in an American Express call center. So there was just there's different variations of financial institutions that I worked for. And then moving back home, got right back into it, and then went into retail management. I enjoyed the success of that. I know that that's like also a very difficult industry. But I worked for a great company that was Fortune 500 and growing at the time. And I was just really able to apply a lot of my skills in those spaces. At one point managed a staff of 80. And so when you're really working through metrics and conversion and, of greeting people and then turning them into transactions, and then you're seeing a performance-based sales culture that you get an opportunity to grab a hold of from what they curate in their own culture, but like really make it grow in a local establishment. This would have been back when like circa Short Pump was just built. So
Uh,
it was an
so
exciting time because we had, new establishments. And so it's been cool to also just be from the area and like see, just so much growth. I mean, that was all farmland back then. I mean, I played ball growing up. I know your kids are in sports too, and it we drove through Broad Street was not what it was today.
do you know the story behind the name of Short Pump?
I would love
I
for
just
you to
learned.
tell it because
Okay,
I
I
don't
just
remember
learned
it.
this. Okay, so back years ago, it was that area was a stopping station where people would stop to um like get water. There was a big well pump right there that they would pump water out of, like for their horses or themselves and stuff like that. And the handle to the well pump was broken about halfway up, so it was a short handle. So it got the name of Short Pump. So if you go into the mall area, kind of there where behind the Dick's Sporting Goods, there's that big
Did they put a plaque there or something?
no,
Oh,
you'll see, well, where the big well is. I mean, not the big well, the big, the water feature there, right there in the center of Short Pump, of the mall, the outside mall. The top, if you look, there's a well pump. Nobody would notice it, but it's the original handle from that original pump. It's that short handle pump. So that's where the
I
name
am
Short
going
Pump
to
came
have
from.
to
Yeah,
stare at that.
yeah.
That
No,
is
I
so
just
fascinating.
learned this like a week ago. An article popped up in my Instagram feed or something. I was like, man, I've always wondered where that name came from. Now I know, and now you do.
Isn't that something? And so then while I was managing in retail, I was able to attend a seminar where this gentleman came to Richmond from Texas, the San Antonio market. This would have been back when I was in my 20s. I think I was around 26.
Okay.
And he taught wholesaling, and then all the things that would come, and that he even predicted economically that we would end up eventually seeing inflation go up so high we'd be paying $5.99 for a loaf of bread. It's just really wow to me to like actually remember some of those conversations back then and then connect the dots now. And so fast forward, I'm 44. I started in wholesaling. That was actually where that was the niche that I was trained in first. And in that space, you're obviously helping distressed sellers, distressed situations, move the property pretty quickly. And so in a short first year, I was able to build a buyer's list of 90 and did my first transaction in the historic area or neighborhood of Churchill on a 4-unit quad. Moved that within 30 days and resale it. We had a pharmacist who was the seller on that, and basically his tenants had trashed the place at the time. And so it was just this whole combination of like him just wanting to get out from under it. It was also during that foreclosure crisis moment where many owners were faced with being upside down on like their mortgage payments and stuff. So, or balances, with equity. So it was like I don't know if you've ever gambled, but to taste a 5-figure check in your 20s, I actually thank God that I got to experience that, because the rest of the career was not easy. But I mean, I'm still loving deal making.
Yes, let's stay there for just a second, because I am curious. You've shared the story with me before.
Yeah.
So you're in your mid-20s, you get a 5-figure check from one of your first deals. Sounds like your first deal.
Yeah.
Reflecting back on that, and you mentioned now how you're kind of starting to reflect back on your story a little bit. Do you think that, well, obviously in the moment it was a positive thing. You got a bunch of money in your bank account that
You're able to help
your eyes open to these potential. But do you think long term that was a positive thing for you, or did it set your expectations a little high in the beginning and then it was just disappointment after that? Like what perspective did you have then?
So mixed. I love that you just asked this question. So mixed. And I'll say, first of all, when you're in your 20s trying to cut your teeth in real estate, zero respect. You have zero respect. You must earn street credibility, and transactions and relationships began to be just where I started. Then when that all happened, I was able to get about 13 more deals under contract. But then my experience when the market shifted, and that would have been circa when Obama had just taken over office in 2009, and the housing and the car bailout had just happened. The same thing really rocked the banking industry, where we started to see some interest rates go up. But while he was dealing with that big bailout, and we were dealing with like mortgages being rewritten and so many foreclosures, just an imaginable amount we're dealing with it. Some of my buyers list, Jason, basically dried up like overnight, because even the ones that had 700 scores and had, commercial portfolio loans now because they had so many projects they were working on. And that was also what I would say was like the prime of like when a lot of the redevelopment in that neighborhood and district actually started. So it's just, it was impactful in a way because it was hard times and I was seeing people like lose everything, but also met with like the opportunity of providing real solutions that worked.
Right.
And so in that era, I also met Jim Ingersoll and his wife, which you are familiar with them through Dealmaker. So shout out to them. They have been not only transformational in their own work, but meeting them back then, I was able to start plugging into a couple of conferences that Jim was doing outside of our area, actually, because he was hosting and speaking outside of our market for many years before he decided to start hosting here. And actually, when I lived in that neighborhood and was working there, I also met Daniel Clayman. We were both around the same age back then, not married with children or anything. And so we were just starting and cutting our teeth on like some of our first deals. And so to just fast forward to this day and like literally have been around these amazing visionaries, and then working inside of other offices, got licensed eventually in 2010. So now I'm 15 years licensed, but really didn't get started in the work again full time until 2019. And by then I'd had my real estate license for a few years and just was taken part-time by referral and the wholesaling background and had been learning. So I do feel like there's a lot of compassion that I have for people that will enter these rooms and not always feel like everything they learn in the room, they'll get and be able to apply it right away. But like just sitting under that sunshine of gold that like is dropped from those stages, and the relationships that you meet are just all the more influential. And then again, fast forward to like, for example, 2013, Lori, I just helped her with her first deal part-time, but I like got to apply myself in all the things that I was learning in all of those, influences, to some of her work. And her family had gone into survival mode because that was also back when SunTrust had laid off masses. And at the time, her husband was impacted by that layoff. So it affected their family. And so for her, it was time to do her first deal. And so she got into her first flip. We've been rolling and running together ever since. Super grateful to have known her since she was about 14 years old. She's one of my sister's best friends. But that's what reconnected us. And so we've just been together for so long. It's been ins and outs of a lot of things. I've remained a realtor, and then I started picking up some of my own investments in 2018, when I also dealt with almost a survival moment in my marriage early on. And I just remember telling Presley's dad at that moment, I said, I just feel compelled to like, I got to go all in. Like I'd been staying home with her. So basically when she got, from the wait list at the preschool acceptance that October 2018, Jason, I'll never forget it. I was like, okay, if you will support, this effort and all the education that I've had, I'm just really ready to apply it. And so I set out to, start purchasing properties as well, and bought my first 5 within the first 3 months. And so I feel like I've had like the combination, when you asked about like different things impacting me, I've had the combination of a lot of beginner's luck, which isn't always fair to the public facing side, because they just look at you like, oh my God, she should know how to do all the things. But I mean, and even that happened when I started flipping and doing design work. Like HGTV started messaging me on 2 of my listings, and I just couldn't believe it. They wanted to do some filming, and to get inbox email from the HGTV producer, like requesting this and then giving you all the directions of how they need you to, to consider it. I just never forget. And Lori worked with me on those jobs too. I'll just never forget calling her. I was like, Lori, like, what is happening? And then we just, we continued different strategies. And I feel like because we're also first generation wealth building, like the biggest thing I could tell anybody or recommend to anybody when they're just getting started is definitely hone into those relationships and stay in those rooms. Because while there's a lot of like new people in there as well that will, inspire you because they're there for the same reasons, there's a lot of movers and shakers in there too that can really welcome you into their work and into their portfolio. And that's one thing I was lazy. So I even remember volunteering to ride and go in and out of Brian and Greg. I don't know if you remember Brian and Greg with Eagle Investments, but the Red Door guys. I mean, I would just ride around with them. And back then, they're huge now too. Right. But I just have so many fond memories with so many of the current markets. Those that we look up to. They all talk to me like I'm their homegirl. They talk a lot of shit too. Mm-hmm. They are so fun. And I feel like we've all been problem solvers and connectors for one another throughout the years. Like one of the things I learned from Lori just recently was like when I connected her to you last year, I was like, oh my God, you know, she only had 2 that she needed to send you at that day of the conversation. So I was like, I just talked to Jason, just met him in a room, call him, because we always talk about like who our leads are for that have interest in working with us as far as capital. And when we sent her to you, like she just shared with me this morning, she was like, okay, we've done like 5 now. So chances are you've funded well over $1 million in deals for her, and that was me honestly being in a room that she couldn't be those on that particular night. And that's another thing. We're mamas. And these kids don't always, in their activity schedules, don't always allow us the opportunity to be in the room. But it's good to divide and conquer when you have people that are out there kind of being the hands, feet, ears, mouthpiece for you and thinking of your business, your work in rooms that, you know, we're here to do. So, Lori and I have both done well over 100 deals. She has been the one that worked more the investment side and held. For me, I've worked more on the realtor side of those transactions and then held a small portion for myself and then just learned how to grow. So my niche is actually unique now for a realtor because I don't always specialize in those first time buyers and stuff. I mean, do I help people with that when they get referred? Absolutely. But Jason, my work now is like, I still pick up a deal or 2 a year, and I really only help portfolio people. Like that's just become my what I'm good at. I'm good at reevaluating like portfolios and helping them talk through numbers. I went and got certified in our tourism office so that I could learn a lot about what was happening with the landscape changing so fast here in our region. And so similar to like I don't know if you saw that movie Founder, that was the story about McDonald's and Burger King on site selection of like how Burger King would show up on every other corner and compete. But I mean, I feel like I've kind of been able to watch these different plays of like people, you know, in my generation, just buying up different parts of these.
Well, I want to, you kind of said something earlier that like, you know, you might, or others may feel like you had beginner's luck or things come.
Because there's some of my first few flips when he's reaching out. I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah, but that's not the case. I mean, yeah, every venture, whether it's entrepreneurship, sports, I mean, to do it at a really high level for a long time, you have to have some luck go your way, right? Excuse me, but I've got a different perspective around that because
oh my gosh,
the cliche is like, you know, you make your own luck, right? You've heard that forever. If you work hard enough, then you get lucky. Well, everything you just described is a perfect example of that. Like there was no luck in everything you just laid out. What did you say? You took a class, right? You were in a good career in retail.
What's going good?
A guy come up here from Texas putting on a wholesaling class, and you took it. And what did you do? You went out and applied that little bit of knowledge that you got. And yes, you may have gotten lucky and hit a home run on that first deal, but the luck was started when you decided to go to that class and take it and then take it to the street. And you didn't, that 4 unit, you said it was a quad, is that right? That didn't fall in your lap. You actually had to call or find somebody that owned it to agree to sell it to you, so you then could assign that deal to somebody else. So that luck would mean you're sitting there at whatever retail store you're managing, and the owner of that quad comes to you and says, hey, would you like to buy this at a discount? And you say, oh
yeah, that's right.
That would be luck.
Don't forget negotiation that goes in it.
Right. There's no luck. And then you took that knowledge, took that initial success, and then you linked up with heavy hitters. You linked up with the Ingersolls. You linked up with all these other people you named, and then y'all just started building something around relationships. That's not lucky at all.
Yeah. Well, and then I guess in the form of feeling like in my first few flips, you know, I would have those types of experiences. And then here it goes, the pattern again. So maybe what we're recognizing now that I'm connecting the dots is the pattern of our lives. And in sharing this with you too, I think you're going to be able to look back at your own life and see some of these similarities.
Oh yeah.
So then when I started with Lori and I both decided to bite off more than we could chew. And you can talk about that quote that you loved that I put up last week. And learned how to build it along the way. But like she went into a mansion first Airbnb in 2019, and I went into my first tiny in 2019. And our goal was to monetize, and we decided to try the Airbnb thing. And both of us hit really great experience with that and grew. And then eventually she had one of our lending partners that was in her portfolio, one of his properties that was sitting vacant turned into converting to that. And through that, we had our first celebrity booking and stay. And then it's never stopped. That's been like 2 or 3 years ago now, 2 or 3 summers ago. And every year we're hosting really cool people in this area that are coming through for shows or concerts or gigs or whatever. And you just realize, like, yeah, even in tourism, not every spot to stay needs to be a hotel. And especially you can imagine in that space, they would have the fangirls and the fanboys all over them in public spaces. So it makes more sense to just know that they have a space that's private. So it's just been cool. So, I mean, in that regard too, we kind of feel like we've just had beginner's luck, but we also studied. So to your point, taking classes and studied what we should do. And we try to improve them every year. The regulations and stuff have changed throughout time. But we have definitely just learned how to pivot as we went along and talk through things. And her family is really involved in her business. So shout out to Scott. We love working with him, and he's growing his portfolio now over the last couple of years. And so that's the thing too about the power of this business. There's so many different strategies that you can learn and implement and then monetize. And then the people that you meet along the way, they end up growing also. And so it just ends up being a beautiful thing. We have pictures of like our kids when they were born into toddlers, and now they're all grown in sports. Her first one graduated and is in college. Like, just to see the pictures of all the times, that we've been our babies together growing.
It is fun. I think the way you started this off talking about like reflecting back and taking time to do that. I certainly don't do that enough. Like I'm very, I reflect a lot on more so the struggles of just life in general. And then, I've been fortunate to not have many entrepreneurial struggles. Been okay there, but like just reflecting back on like how a lot of childhood struggles with my dad and just things we went through, and raised by a single mom, all that good stuff. Like how I reflect all the time on how much that shaped me in a positive way. Right. It's never a reflection of like poor me. It's, man, like everything I am now and all these good qualities of being resourceful and never really getting knocked down and being positive comes from all the adversity growing up, right? So I reflect on that a lot. What I am terrible of reflecting on are successes. Like when I make a decision or a move in business that leads to really good success, I can't even think about it. Like I've got to move on to the next thing. And I wish and hope that eventually I can get to that point where I can look back, take a breath and say, man, we did good there, and I'm just not there yet. And I don't know where you're at on that road, but.
Well, maybe I should mention now that, confession, Lori and I have been talking about throwing a big party for us and our clients and our circles for years.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for years.
But it's just so interesting because it's always, we are always on to the next thing. And I also feel that because once you get into a certain pace of this work, some of it becomes reactive because there's going to be things that are going really well. And then there will be certain transactions that cause a lot more of your attention to be front and center to them just to get through them. the deals, the details, the analysis of it. In your case, if you're, lending now, because I know you guys did tons of renovation work, you probably still do.
Yep.
It's a healthy balance, but like there are certain seasons where you feel that pressure and you really feel it. And so that brings me to another topic. You want to read that quote? Because I can.
Yeah. Let me do that. So,
Topic on this quote.
Leah, for those listening or watching, Leah just brought up they bite off more than they can chew. Before I read this quote, and this is let me get a little backstory here. My listeners have heard me say a million times that my mentality with everything is ready, fire, aim. So I pull the trigger before I know what I'm aiming at a lot of times, right? I just dive in and then I just clean up the mess as I go. And that can be pretty chaotic for everybody else in my circle, but it's the way I've found success. It's just, I'm comfortable there.
Works for you.
Yep. So last week when I was, and I'm getting to know Leah, I've gotten to know her a little bit, but I'm getting to know her through these conversations in real time. But I went to her social media, and that day that we were scheduled to talk, I saw her post or share somebody's quote, and the quote goes like this, and I'm going to read it word for word because it's powerful that way. It says, bite off more than you can chew and figure out how to fucking chew it. Pardon my French, because Leah, I love that quote. It gave me goosebumps the other day. I got them again because that speaks to, we talk about getting luck or beginner's luck, getting lucky. No, you don't get lucky. You dive in head first into things. You bite off more than you can chew, and then you build that resourcefulness, that grit, all those buzzwords through repetitions of just trying to figure things out. So speak to that a little bit more. Maybe that'll segue into your next point. So
yeah, and then diving into new things. And so, the mention right now on biting off more than you can chew is like, feeling like if life changes, like if life's circumstances change, how does that impact your work? And then how does that cause you to recalibrate all your circumstances, all your cash flow goals? You just end up getting like a whole new perspective. And so in biting off more than I could chew, apparently this past year, like all the people that were working with me the previous year, like one moved out of state, another one outgrew me as a transaction coordinator and just was able to go full-time into the work, which I love that for her.
that's what you want.
And absolutely. Right. So like right now, like the topic of the hour is just complete recalibration. I also have a couple of notes due, and I'm working on getting new investors or either recalibrating with the ones that I have. And then the other thing is like, while you're growing and biting off more than you can chew, you end up realizing some stuff you just can't keep up with anymore. And so, Jason, I definitely would advocate for anyone listening, like learn how to manage your emotions and your mental health and get the help you need with that, because your friends don't always need to hear everything. I learned that lesson the hard way with the situation where my relationship didn't work out anymore. So there's new circumstances, now a single mama, just living in a new space, new section of the region. She's got different activities going on now. I don't feel like I'm holding enough rentals that I want to have. So I'm like kind of putting the pressure on that. But then I'm also recalibrating, like I said, because the other part of that was really such a blessing in my first part of my investing career was like when I learned private lending, my whole portfolio became private lending. And so I'm learning how to recalibrate all of that. But it also causes you, if things don't work out the way you plan, to learn how to develop a capacity to disappointing others and yourself when it doesn't work the way you planned, and not shutting down over it, just really leaning into, sometimes you just have to have hard conversations and then figure out where all the parties are ready to go and pick up the pieces from here. Like what works for you, what works for me, what's going to make the whole, transaction work best, highest and best use, is the most important thing to evaluate every time. Um, and and then honestly, it's kind of interesting because I've seen some of the portfolios that I work in as well recalibrate constantly over the years just to keep them healthy and strong. And like even my conversation with Lori today, we're going to have some evaluation of some more coming up conversations. Like, okay, got to unload a few more, and then I got another one under contract. that's commercial district, Leah. Like, so it's just this constant ebb and flow. And what you end up learning is like, if you don't infuse your portfolio with enough residual cash flow, with enough transactional income, like it can't even survive the rate of the inflation rate growing right now for all of us. And it's not just the common things that are affecting our industry that affect us all the more. It's for us, it's construction costs, materials costs, it's the tariffs, it's the food costs and all the other things too. But it is like this, yeah. All of this is a lot more than any of us can F into.
Yeah, right.
Just to put it lightly.
Yeah, but the last thing any of us are, and you and I and folks like Lori and Jim Ingersoll, I mean, we've got the benefit of years of experience of seeing rough times and getting through that. So you keep saying the word calibrate. I like that word as well, but we have calibrated our minds to know that it'll pass. This too shall pass, right? It might be a rough time, but we're gonna, instead of sulking or just stopping completely, we're just gonna figure out what we can focus on now to keep the ball rolling until things get good again, right? And
Absolutely.
who knows? Right now, with all the chaos, there's probably some good to be found in it, right? Whether it's from an experience and educational standpoint, or find a niche. You keep throwing enough stuff at the wall, biting off enough stuff, you're going to find something that gets you through this time and maybe adds to your bottom line and your net worth.
And that, yeah, in those ways too. And the other thing is like, none of us ever want to see like a project sit, right? But what's been really interesting and also equally fascinating to me, and I started saying this one-liner in my work with Lori because I feel like we discovered it, it just meets us often, is delays equal dollars. Whereas like in the natural, you might be thinking, I've got to pay extension fees. This is going to cost me a late fee. This is going to cost me, maybe not putting the house on the market in a peak season. It's going to cost me because we're putting it in the fall. Well, what we've learned is about like divinely aligned timing that you can't really create on your own. So let's say this happens to you where you're like frustrated because you couldn't get through a project fast enough. I'm already calling like God to say, all right, God, I'm going to need to find some new numbers. I'm going to need 20K, 40K more on these comps so that I can find that margin that could sustain and kind of swallow that delay for anything we paid in increase or anything we paid in time. And to be honest with you, like when we come out of it, like we just count good wins.
Yeah.
And so, even in those challenging moments. So anyway, live by that, live by calling the gold out of the hard things and like trying to find the gold. Because it's going to be there. And what's interesting is most people are thinking like, okay, when you list in the fall, it's not spring, summer market. But guess what fall's floor is? Spring market ceiling on price point, So it's a little bit of a dichotomy when you think about it mentally, but the seasonality of things matters. So yeah, I love these points that are coming up for us today.
Yeah. And I'm gonna switch gears for a minute and then we'll come back to a couple other things I have. But I want to ask you, so you mentioned a couple times you're a single mother, you got a 10-year-old daughter, that the mental load that moms have to carry, I can't relate to. That's not something, like I have 2 kids, but I mean, my wife handles everything, right? I mean, and she works, she's a teacher, but like their doctor's appointments, their game schedules, practice. Yes, I coach my son's baseball team, but she's the one telling me where I got to be, when I got to, I mean, it's like I'm a third child for her, right? So where I'm going with this is the real estate world, and you're immersed in it, has traditionally been a male dominated world. You're in a lot of rooms where a lot of times you might be the only or maybe just a handful of women in that room, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I go to those rooms, I have the freedom to know that I can just focus on that room, right? What's going on and everybody in it, and networking and maximizing my time there and providing value, extracting value, whatever it is. You've got to try to manage and balance. And Lori and, Lindy Pond, and, I can name a bunch of women that I've gotten close to in real estate that have to do this. You're balancing that while having a 10-year-old somewhere, like somebody's watching her that night while you're out at this event, and you're thinking about, you've got to make breakfast and lunch tomorrow morning to get them off to school. Like, how do you manage that load? And there's a lot of men that listen to this podcast that aren't going to relate, but I'd love to hear your perspective around that.
So that's such a great question, because I don't know that I did it in the healthiest way to start, but after she was able to get into preschool, I felt like I was able to get some of my time back. And then one of the biggest things that I feel very just honored to have even had thought this perspective, okay, was when you get really busy, you feel like you need an executive assistant sometimes, like in your work, right? Or assistant at all, right? And as I kept thinking about what I would want in an assistant, I also was weighing all those household duties, that you mentioned, and, cooking, laundry. So there's like work to do before you start work. And then when you get home from work, there's more work to do. So my evaluation of like my belief system and then my time and like how I buy it back honestly came when I met a area broker in town who I saw her post when I prayed asking for help, pray to God asking for help to manage it all, for a nanny. And so I would recommend highly to anyone considering, this was how I quantified it. So it felt really expensive for me at first to concept that into my own life, because I didn't grow up like that. I was not raised like that. And so to actually think that I was trying to have to budget for someone that could clean my house and then someone that could assist in all these other things, it was $20 an hour. And so I was able to feel like I could try part-time. So I did part-time every other day and 20 hours a week, which quantified to $1,680 a month. But 20 hours a week, Jason, what could any of us do buying our time back at only $1,680 a month? 80 hours of your time back.
Right.
Like it just hit different. It hit me different to quantify it like that. And so I justified the expense. And shout out to Joan Small, because she and I actually rotated. We interviewed her at the same time, and we rotated having her in each of our households, which was awesome because, with the market increasing demand, I mean, our businesses really became more high in demand. So that was how we balanced it. I now have coaches because our schedules with the kids change. So she and I don't keep the same nanny in rotation with our households as much as she's more full-time in one of our other colleagues' households now, who's got really young ones too.
Right.
But we all love her like family. Like it's become an amazing extension of our family and our work. And then now I'm working with coaches. I've got a business coach and a fitness coach, and also a therapist. And when you hire like your all-star lineup to really help you evaluate, I call them all my all-star lineup because they just really keep me together. And, so time blocking became a big thing too. And if you'd also told me years ago that like time blocking more time for yourself could actually help you crush and seize really going hard in like a 3 to 4 hour window.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, I was not raised like this. That is so different to even corporate culture. Like,
Yep.
so the help that I'm receiving now and in the recalibration of everything has just been such a blessing to me. And
I love it. I love it.
so those nuggets would be what I would share for any even growing working family. And then it also helped me meet my goals. Like, I didn't want to have like the crumbs and the leftover energy at the end of the day from the exhaustion of the day to still have to come home and do more work and not really get that time with my daughter. So it definitely can help you seize time with them, and to walk into your home when the food is cooked, my friend, the laundry's already clean and put away, the house is clean, and you get to bond with your babies. Like, Jason, and to anybody, if you just want to try it, do it once for yourself and then be like, oh my gosh, it's a different way to live, my friend.
So here's the way my man.
Hire your wife a nanny.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to figure out how to keep my wife from seeing this part of the podcast.
No, and you know what?
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, entrepreneurially, we all like our iron sharpens one another. And I mean, listen, even Lori has considered doing the nanny thing a few times, and she's got 5. She also has a balance of older children as well, but her youngest is still in toddler phase, and so they're very attached to you.
Yeah,
when they're that young.
Talk about time blocking. It was I did a complete 180 when I left. So I was in the corporate world for years, and when I left that in 2022 to go full time in my business, right at the same time, I was like a month after I left that career, I went to a real estate conference in Puerto Rico, and there was a lady on stage talking about time blocking, and she kind of gave a visual example of her calendar and the way they approach it, her and her husband every week was, and this is what I've done ever since, and it's been game changing for me. We look at the blank slate now. Like every week, I have a few things scheduled for the next week that carried over from weeks before. They've got to be done. Mm-hmm. But other than that, we've got a clean slate, and we fill it up with personal stuff. So we put all of the ball games on there, all the practices. My workouts go on there. My wife puts all her personal stuff, our family dinners, movie nights, all that stuff goes on there. And then I fill the gap with the business stuff. And you said this earlier pretty quickly, but it's an important point. I am 10x more productive now in like a 2-hour time block than I was an entire day just kind of floating around. And I am laser focused because I know at the end of that 2 hours, I got to take the business hat off and go pick the kids up from school, that kind of thing. And that has completely made me way more productive and has made us as a family way more like I don't miss nothing with.
And you're so much more close, and it's so refreshing. Yep. To try it that way. I love this.
Love that. Yeah.
This is helping our next generation by living this way too.
So I want to get into one more thing before we start wrapping up, but you have recently launched your own show or podcast, Brick by Brick. So talk a little bit about that. Where we can find it, what the audience could expect on that, and what the vision is for it moving forward.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being willing to highlight that. And as a podcast pro yourself, you know what's interesting? Aren't we just learning the things as we go? Yeah. So what was really awesome was I met a fellow agent and colleague through one of my events I did during COVID, and it was a huge broker open, still to this day the largest one that has ever been attended by my colleagues. Like, I think there was over 150 people there. But to tell you the wow about it, because that's like literally what bonded us to this podcast and the whole reason she asked me. We had 3 properties open. We did like this cool progressive dinner thing where we had like an appetizer at the first stop, hors d'oeuvre, main hors d'oeuvre at the middle, and the last stop we had a mobile bar and networking. So there I go, swinging in my superpower into my event at an open house, Jason, to bring the people together. And at the time I was trying to sell one of my client and colleagues now, she and her husband had a 5-bedroom Airbnb, and it was right at the start of like when Airbnbs were getting regulated. And then the other two, I had flips. Both were Lori and then another client, and so it was awesome because they were like all really close by, so it just made sense. And in that event, I'd never met her or heard of her or anything, but she just basically was like, you were so unforgettable from like doing something so impactful during COVID. And see, that's the thing. We couldn't pack everybody in one house, so we had to do something totally creative. And I can't even take all the credit for that creativity because my team came up with it. And so shout out to Josh Stanart and Jennifer of AGG Redesigns. They still work with us so much. We love.
So you work with Josh?
Yes, yeah. His wife.
Yeah.
They were referred to me through my brother, Josh, and he met on the golf course years ago.
Okay.
And when we were needing a new staging company to start getting more immersed in our work, we met them that way, and they've been together ever since with us. It's been amazing. But saying all that to say, so Brick by Brick came about because basically, and I've met so many awesome people like this, but do you have like people that you like? I mean, I call it fangirling, but like, you get to become a fan of theirs and then you end up meeting them in real life. And then it's just like magic because you just really hit it off with them. And so she was bringing a vision to Channel 8 because she went to work in media recently and was able to give them a vision that kind of fell in line with something they had in the Orlando market where they were bringing together a community and business and real estate lifestyle page. And so our goal is to just really interview a lot of the people that are just awesome players in Richmond making things happen. And then starting with, obviously the ones that are heavily involved in our own work, our own relationships. And so I've got like a list of several that have been influenced in this area, and it's going to be cool. So it's new for the station. It's new for their app. It's new to us. We're having so much fun with it. And to have like several of my clients in the studio on a content day, like back to back, and then them getting to listen to one another's stories. So you get to hear their stories. I'm learning so much about my people beyond even what I get to learn working with them. Yeah. And this most recent like stint, which these episodes will be coming out further into like November, December. There's multiple entrepreneurial things that people are doing powered by real estate. And that's one of my favorite ways to look at real estate. Like, it is such a tool for leverage, Jason. Yeah. And people starting nonprofits and people like opening up a Medi weight loss clinic and, just getting into other entrepreneurial ventures. And so excited for Lori too. I mean, she and her life partner are in like his vision coming to fruition through assisted living facility that they're converting to memory care. So, these things that are like just some really important causes of our day and health and wellness. It's just amazing to see our generation just get after it. They're so inspiring to me. My own clients are so inspiring to me.
I love it. It takes me back to the first time I'm pretty sure it was the first time I met you, but when you brought those two high schoolers up to me, and I was, if you can't tell already, I led with that story.
Yeah.
And that was a quick meeting, right? But I knew, I was like, there, not many people do that and take the time. Like, most people go to those events, and I'm gonna get on a soapbox here because it drives me crazy, but most people go to networking events with this mindset. It's, how can I extract as much value as possible for myself or whatever I'm doing as possible, right? That's the only mindset. I'm going there to extract value. You are obviously trying to do that. I'm obviously trying to do that. But at the same time, you're equally trying to look at it like, where can I provide value? Where can I, it's, and that when it becomes a balance of the two,
yeah,
no matter if it's a giant networking group you're in or just an event you're going to, but you lead with, okay, I've got value to share. I'm happy to share that. I've got weak spots that I need help from, so I need to extract some value, and that's where things become super powerful in this world. And
Yeah.
you are a great example of that.
Connections.
And all your success is a great example of that, you know?
Thank you so much. So yeah, so cheers to the recalibration of a lot of portfolios out there and to all of our lives as we're learning how to navigate them better and reach more people with great, content and good messages.
Yeah. I love,
I think the nuggets we
uh,
dropped today are all the ones
yeah.
that everybody needs, and hopefully it'll sharpen.
Where can, so you mentioned that your primary focus as a realtor is with portfolio and investors and stuff like
Clients.
that.
Yep. Hmm.
So what is the best way for folks to reach out to you? What's like, let's talk about the person that owns 10 to 20 plus rental properties, and they're just going through a season where they might have, loans coming due or whatever the case may be. What value can you provide to that person, and where can they find you?
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, let's just consider all the things. Like, I can't wait to talk to people like that. And I will share with you on this note as we close. You can find me on Instagram, Leah Renee Coleman. If you look up Leah Coleman, Richmond Realtor, you can find me online pretty much in a few different places. I do have Leah Coleman Global at gmail.com. You can shoot me a quick email. I also answer my phone. Some people don't, but 804-484-2018. And I'd leave any portfolio client with this. One of the reasons I wanted to further niche in this space to help others with it is because there has been also first generation wealth building from the generation before us, right? Who's now starting to sell for the first time, in that space and in this very different market, right? And so I just feel like if they try to do it alone, and don't talk to somebody that like is experienced more with these things. There's probably about 10 of us in town that like do a lot of this niche work, and we all know one another. So I'm actually going to start gathering us in quiet places so we can actually match make for deals.
Okay.
And then I also want to know who wants to buy them, because as people are scaling and growing, I just plan on matchmaking. Like
Yeah.
and then people don't have to spend tons of time sending out tons of emails, and getting nowhere. I mean,
Yeah.
when you have a lot of volume and a lot of quantity, it's okay sometimes if you're just doing one at a time, but a few at a time can be very overwhelming for people.
I'm gonna back up what you
So,
said, and I'm gonna give an example real quick of
of how the
where the value of an expert like you can come into play. So we recently, my business partner and I were presented with a pretty good sized portfolio across Hampton Roads of primarily single family duplexes, a couple quads, and but the realtor that individual worked with had zero experience with this type of transaction, right? Packaging a bunch of properties together, a portfolio. They were just, and not that's just not their experience or expertise. So it was presented to us with very little expertise or knowledge of how to package this up and market it and present it. And you could tell that realtor had not really coached the client that was trying to sell it on, like, hey, this is way overvalued. You are, yeah, I mean, there's no way anybody's going to buy it at this point. So
yeah,
now
that's what happens. That's what we keep running
right.
into.
So,
I'm like,
so if you're in that situation and you're just a tired landlord, you're ready to retire and sell it all off, you need to contact someone like Leo, or somebody that knows the markets, knows what these buyers are going to be looking for. It's not going to be a startup fix and flipper that's going to buy this portfolio. It's going to be somebody that is experienced, and they'll know a good deal and not a good deal right out the gate. So you got to be working with somebody who knows how to present that. So
yeah, and you got to be able to tell them like tax benefits, just recommending different things, so they're actually getting some consultation,
yep. Right.
even from their own pros that have been helping them for years, just to get everybody together. So thank you so much for sharing the way that is looking like for you, being on the other side of that experience personally. And if I can send you like a PDF of some things to focus on, do it. I will be happy to do it. And the other thing I was going to say, do it too, is if you're not using AI and ChatGPT yet to evaluate your own portfolio yourself, mind blowing how much information that it will give you outside of what your own analysis is. And you might be surprised.
Got me thinking now.
Yeah.
We're using AI in the lending.
I want you to prompt it different for yourselves, and put that, create a new chat with ChatGPT on this new portfolio too, Jason. So if you ever want to hop on a Zoom, happy to go through some things with you, screen share. But yeah, these things are really key, and they will help you and anyone else just do everything smarter, not harder, faster, better, with better considerations. So we're not missing things that we wouldn't have thought about, especially being first time in scaling, something larger. So,
yeah, I know we're about to wrap up, but you mentioned AI. It is completely over my head, but I'm getting on board. Our social media folks that handle all of our marketing and stuff, they are now showing me like AI twins where they have taken me and I've still got to get used to it. We're not using it yet, but they're like, they can make ads and I can't, I am me. I am who I am.
Yeah.
And I can't tell that what I'm looking at is the AI version of me. It looks like me talking. I was like, I didn't say that. And it has blown my mind. So AI is here.
So much more to learn and do.
Oh my gosh.
So get a nanny. Maybe start working on the concept for yourself of like AI assistant.
Yeah.
And then if they're already creating your doppelganger to help you run some ads with all that personality you have, Jason, it's about to be a banging 2026.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, but Leah, I really appreciate your time. I'm glad we were able to do it. I feel like there's another 3 hours of stuff we could cover.
Oh, we hit on some things, my friend.
So this might be something kind of as we maybe get into first quarter of next year or middle of next year. I'd like to run it back and maybe do it again. Or maybe a good idea, we could do an episode with. I want to interview Lori by herself. Maybe a joint interview where you guys kind of collaborate and talk about how y'all have worked together as investors and you being the realtor and stuff like that. So we can discuss that more offline, but
my girl,
I do appreciate your time. We're going to drop all of your links in the show notes for anybody who wants to check out more about you, hop on a call, email, whatever the case may be, but I appreciate your time.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jason. And then again, 8 News for Brick by Brick, but Google it and can't wait to enjoy more learning and growth with everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for listening.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Burning the Ships. I want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, 608B Capital, helping real estate investors secure fast, reliable funding to fuel their boldest moves. If you're ready to take your investing to the next level, visit 608bcapital.com to learn more. If you found value in today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it also helps us reach more people who are ready to burn the ships and commit fully to their goals. And don't forget to share the episode with someone who needs that extra push to take bold action. I'll leave you with this. Burning the ships isn't just about removing the option to retreat. It's about unlocking the courage to charge forward. No matter the odds, the past is behind you and the future is yours to conquer. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on Burning the Ships.